Carla, it's wonderful to have you on Floor Talk. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Judy. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Carla, it's Climate Week. Tell me, how's it been going? Do you have any key takeaways?
Yes, I've really been enjoying Climate Week. It's such a rare opportunity to get everyone from around the world together to think and talk about climate change. So one big takeaway for me is that there are more technologies than ever to help us better measure greenhouse gases, monitor, as well as reduce emissions. And AI is actually enabling those technologies to do even more and to lead to more productivity. One of my other takeaways is that common policies and approaches really do help. And so it's been nice to think globally, but also act locally.
Now, Carla, tell me about PG&E's climate goals and what's unique about the role a utility like PG&E can play in addressing climate change.
Well, PG&E is committed to having a net zero carbon energy system across our electricity and gas system by 2040. And in order to do that, we've made some commitments through 2030. So by 2030, we'll have reduced our Scope 1 and 2 emissions by 50%, our Scope 3 emissions by 25%. And we're also focused on helping our customers reduce their greenhouse gas footprint through energy efficiency and electric vehicles. And what's unique about a utility doing this work is that we're going to fuel decarbonization. So it's our role to make sure that the grid is ready for all the EVs, for the electric buildings. And I'm really proud that recently, in a recent decarbonization ranking, PG&E was ranked #1 utility in terms of our decarbonization efforts.
Now, accelerating electric vehicle adoption is a big priority for PG&E. Can you share why and what steps you're taking?
Well, reducing greenhouse gas emissions in the transportation sector is key. 40% of California's emissions come from transportation, and 1 in 7 electric vehicles in the country is in our service area. We also know that the more EVs we have on the road, that increased load helps lower the price of electricity for everyone. So we're focused in a couple areas: preparing the grid, but also making sure there's sufficient infrastructure to fuel the vehicles, so charging stations, and then educating our customers on how to charge their vehicles, the pricing. And so one of the projects that we recently completed was with the Oakland School District to become the first electric school fleet. And this fleet not only will be all electric, so clean buses, but it's going to provide power back to the grid when the buses aren't driving kids around. So it's a real opportunity to be a grid resource and a transportation resource in our community.
Now, have you been able to take advantage of the federal funding that's available to enable energy transition?
Yes, another theme from this week has been the availability of federal funding and how important it is to have companies like us decarbonize. So recently, we were able to receive a grant in partnership with the state of California to invest in transmission, to be able to expand transmission in our communities. And what I love about this grant, it's $600 million, and it's going to provide $1 billion in benefits to communities, particularly disadvantaged communities. So there's workforce development efforts, as well as the opportunity to expand the grid.
And finally, Carla, how are you building resilience to the impacts of climate change?
Well, first of all, we had to make sure we understood what are going to be the impacts to our system from climate change. So we've done a vulnerability assessment of all our assets and what exposure do we have to climate risk ranging from heat to drought to subsidence to wildfire. And then in order to make sure our system is resilient, we've been updating our design standards and building to be future-proof. So undergrounding power lines is one example of one of the ways we're making our system resilient to future climate needs.
Carla, it's been fantastic to talk with you. Thanks for joining me on Floor Talk today.
Thanks, Judy. It's been a pleasure.